Okay, hello again, everybody. We are back. So, I guess, in continuing the spirit of these different movies about astronauts going to space and doing different things, we've seen First Man, we've seen Interstellar, we've seen Contact, and now we're gonna watch Deep Impact, which is, the classic tale of a comet going to hit Earth. And how do we deal with it? Do we send oil drillers to drill a hole in it, or do we just send the astronauts? So what are we gonna do?
This is the version of Armageddon where they send the astronauts.
Yeah, there's a great story about that. So I think there was I don't know how this happened, but there's a Criterion version of Armageddon, and on that there was a commentary track. I think there's two. I think there's one with Michael Bay and there's one with
Oh, the Ben Affleck one.
mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, and Ben Affleck talks about a bunch of hilarious stories dealing with Michael Bay, who is a notorious a-hole.
He's a douche.
Yeah, big time on set, big time. And one time, Ben brought up the very salient point. Wouldn't they just teach the astronauts to drill instead of hiring a bunch of oil guys? And the always very
professional.
very professional and intelligent Michael Bay said, "Shut the F up" to him.
Yeah, and I think Ben Affleck was just like, okay.
Just like, all right. The answer is that they would not do that. Like, that's the clear answer, because it's not hard to teach an astronaut, who are the most intelligent people basically you can find. You just take intelligent people and then you make them athletes. Like, that's what you do. You could teach them to drill a hole.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have the funny, witty banter and all of the fun montages that come along with it.
Yeah, like the montage. I do like that scene where it's like,
I'm gonna flip you. I'm gonna spin you. I'm gonna make your eyeballs get sucked to the back of your skull. Like, I love Armageddon. I'm sorry, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It's super fun. Yeah, I love like Michael Clark Duncan's running from the authorities and he's like on his chopper or whatever. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Oh yeah, I love when he's like, they're like, I think they're psychoanalyzing him or something, and he's just sobbing.
That seems great. Yeah, those were fun. Those were really fun.
I was devastated when he passed away. I was utterly devastated. That
was another one too early. Yeah.
Too early, too soon. What a phenomenal body of work for someone who was so young. Like, literally, he was. Oh God, he was wonderful, so good. But that. So I've been thinking a lot about. I've been comparing a lot of Deep Impact to Armageddon, because they came out relatively same period of time. They also have pretty much an identical storyline for the most part. And I think it does come down to characters for me, because like you mentioned before, how Deep Impact is more of like the hard sciencey portion of everything. We're kind of seeing a lot from like the little person's point of view. Like, we had some like scientists and we have the astronauts and things like that, but it did come down to character for me. There was something I loved more about the cast of Armageddon and what they brought to these characters than the ensemble and cast of like Deep Impact.
Yeah, this is definitely an ensemble, and I feel like, they're like, I think we're supposed to really feel for like the Elijah Wood character.
Mm-hmm.
But they, we'll talk about what happens at the end of this movie. But yeah, there's no real. I feel like there's no real person that we go on this journey to divert this disaster, that we go out of being like, yeah, that person, made it back or whatever. Like it's just, it's just, there's not in like Armageddon, it's like, the what's his name, like the guy who actually blows up the asteroid, like you feel for him, and Bruce Willis, and like the guys who actually make it out and then don't die, you definitely feel for them, and you're like attached to them despite all the, again, it just shows you like story, like people don't care about stuff being realistic, right?
Well, I enjoyed the hard science of it. What I really liked that I thought was a very realistic choice was when Tia Leone's character is actually like doing like the live broadcast. Okay, this is what the astronauts are doing. This is, you know, how they're drilling. They need to be this far away. They need to go into the wake of the comet, and it's going to be. She's talking about all the hard sciencey stuff of it. That was very realistic to me, and I actually really liked it because, like, when they lose the feed of what's actually going on the ship. And she's like, okay, we're just gonna tell the audience what the next step is. And I like that because we all would be watching that. We would be, like when it was announced that Trump was giving an address due to COVID and that he was going to be declaring like basically a state of emergency. I sat down and watched the whole thing. Like I grabbed my phone or my laptop, whatever it was, and I was just like, oh, this is real.
This is serious. Yeah.
This
is
is
that
serious.
moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hear my dog barking.
Oh, yeah.
She's just being a bitch.
Oh, okay. There's probably someone.
The driveway alarm went off, so that's probably someone here. But yeah, so I did like that element of it because I thought it was very realistic, and it kind of gave like a face to like the people on the ground. You know what I mean? Like the regular person who would be watching all of these broadcasts and stuff like that. Families, single people, the elderly. You know, I liked that part of it, but again, there was no real one person I wanted to win, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, to survive, because like that's really what this is about. Is like, you know, these type of movies. There's some group of survivors or whatever, or people that are, I don't know, trying to divert this disaster, and we're supposed to connect with them. But if we don't connect with them, it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah, I also really liked, you know, when the president gives his like addresses and everything like that. I like how at the last one he gives, he's so exhausted. Like you can just tell he's like, it didn't work. I have to go tell an entire nation that it didn't work.
Yeah.
And like, I like that they go into what's going to happen after it hits. Like the sun will be locked out. The air will be toxic. Nothing will survive. And they even mention how like museums all across the country are saving important pieces of art. Like it's very interesting, some of the things that they brought up, and I liked that element of it.
Yeah, for totally, because like those are real things. Like there is a contingency plan in every government, hopefully, probably, about how to preserve the culture of the society in some way. And if this happens, we're going to do this. If this happens, we're going to do that. But it's all about fun. And, you know, again, there's this other thing that has to do with like taking people to some place so that we know they'll be alive.
Oh, the lottery. Oh my God. Like, I feel like a lot of these movies have been kind of hitting a little close to home because at one point they do declare a state of emergency. He declares martial law, the president in this film. And then they're like, we're going to issue a lottery to see who goes. And it's going to be completely random. And if you're over 60, you don't get to go.
Yeah. You're out, period.
That was one of the most heartbreaking things. Because, like, obviously you immediately think of your parents.
Think of your parents, yeah. Mm-hmm.
God, that part was so sad to me. And everyone's waiting for their phone call, and the phone calls haven't happened yet. And it's survival. You're waiting for the call to see if you survive. And that was really hard. That was pretty hard.
Yeah. That stuff is like, because it's like, you know, would you leave your parents? Like if you're chosen, but they weren't, would you just leave your parents?
No, exactly.
They want you to, but would you actually do it? Would you actually let them, you know, never see them again? You go off somewhere and then that's it?
Yeah. I was actually thinking what I thought was interesting. Maybe this wasn't intentional, but I found it interesting. Elijah Wood's girlfriend's mom is like pregnant in the first act. Second act, it's a newborn baby. Third act, she is like an actual like, I'm kind of comprehending some things, baby. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's almost like this life will continue thing. Again, I don't think that was probably intentional. I'm probably just, again, like I always do, reading way too much into it. But I did think it was interesting that it was like this, life will find a way. They get to the summit and they have the baby. and everything like that. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on babies and disaster movies. I freak out. It's like a trigger for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, child's totally defenseless in this crazy, like, talk about being born at the wrong time.
Dude, and they're with kids who are barely teenagers. They're like 14.
I know, they're like preteens. They're like,
And it's so sad. Not only that, but it's Denise Crosby from Star Trek, so I have a soft spot for her. I love Denise Crosby. But I'm getting way off topic. I'm getting so off track. Why don't you take us into this film before I keep talking?
All right, cool. Yeah, so let's talk about the plot. There's a lot to talk about with this, so this should be interesting. We start off. It's Virginia. It's this astronomy class, and this kid, Leo Biederman, played by Elijah Wood. He sort of looking, and then there's like these star constellations, but there's one that's not what it's supposed to be, and so he's like, oh yeah, well, whatever, we'll take a picture. So they take a picture of it and then they send it to this observatory. So he basically inadvertently discovers this comet. So it's this Adrian Peak Observatory in Tucson, Arizona. So this guy, Dr. Marcus Wolf, he gets this picture that Leo took, and then he observes it with his more sophisticated technology, and he sees the comet, and he checks the trajectory, and there's that oh shit moment where the trajectory is right in Earth's orbit. It's like, whoa,
this is not good.
This is not good. Now this part is really fun because again, this movie came out in 1998 or something. And so then he goes on his little Mac and he tries to send an email, and the email is down.
How fucking inconvenient. Damn you.
How convenient. Yeah. Was the internet really totally a thing, or was there? He might have still been on. What was it, the DARPA net or whatever?
I feel like it was probably where he was. He probably had the good shit, but it still wasn't like instant like we have. Like I could send you a DM right now, and you'll get it in like 2 seconds. Like
exactly.
It was fast for them, but
you
still had to download something onto a floppy disk, I think.
Yeah. He like puts the information on a floppy, which is another hilarious moment, you know, thinking about it now. And then he's like, dude, I gotta tell someone about this. So he gets in a car, right? He's driving, and he's on his cell phone. And then another guy's coming at him on a truck, and this guy is like eating food or something.
He's drinking, smoking. He's like, I think he drops his cigarette into his lap, which as a former smoker, that sucks. It hurts.
That sounds pretty bad. And so, you know, an accident happens. He gets hit. Dr. Wolf gets hit, and then his car goes off a cliff, and of course it explodes. It has to explode, right? So that's it for him. So he died, and we're like, oh, that's pretty ominous. Okay, and so then we pick up a little bit later this DC reporter, Jenny Lerner, who's played by Téa Leoni. So one thing I just want to just make a quick aside about Téa Leoni. I really want to get a movie where Téa Leoni and Gillian Anderson are in the same movie.
Yes.
Because they're like doppelgangers. I'm telling you.
I love both of them. I feel like they were both really popular around the same time, and like I love Téa Leoni's voice. Like she has such a good voice. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I just think she's freaking gorgeous. Second of all, but like I like her. Like no matter what she's in, I usually like her. Like she was even in like an episode of Frasier once, and she was really good.
That sounds cool. Yeah, it's very kind of sultry. Like it's very I don't know, welcoming.
It's a good voice. It's kind of like a Jessica Rabbit voice.
Yes. I feel like that is what Jessica Rabbit should sound like, is Téa Leoni, basically. So she's a reporter, and then we kind of see her she works for MSNBC. And basically there's this story going around where I think it's like the Secretary of Treasury, like he's resigning, but they think has to do with his wife or an affair or something like that.
Something tawdry.
Yeah, exactly. And so then we see Jenny have lunch with her mom, Robin, who's played by Vanessa Redgrave, and I forget what that. I think it had to do with like the husband marrying the other person, something like that.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that her mom went to her ex-husband's wedding,
Oh my god.
which I don't know why you would ever do. Especially since it doesn't seem like it ended well. And she's like mocking like the whole wedding thing, and she's
Yeah.
like she calls the new wife by the wrong name, and she's like, "Well, it's still a stupid name, it's Chloe." Which I thought was funny because I was like, I liked that I liked her conversations with her mom. I did. It felt very natural and good casting too. I thought it was good casting for her mom.
Yeah.
You don't really think of Vanessa Redgrave as being in a disaster movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think of like Shakespeare or some kind of like, I don't know, British drama on PBS or something. You know what I mean? Like, but she's in this disaster movie, but she's really good. I think she plays a really integral part of it. And yeah, they're having lunch and they're gossiping and being cute. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of what people do in DC. I feel like that's something we get a lot of DC in this.
Have brunch and gossip. That's what my sister does.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jenny, she's chasing this story, and so then she like goes to meet with the so basically what they think is, oh, it's this person Ellie is like, who the person is, cheating with. And they so then they chase him down. They ask him all these questions about Ellie, and so he thinks that they know that the comet is going to hit. He doesn't say that, but he's like, like he basically tells them, don't tell people because, it's going to be a disaster. And pretty much he says, yeah, I'm resigning because I want to spend time with my family. Right. Which is another interesting. She brings this up later, which is like, basically he resigned because he thought that everyone was going to die.
Yeah. And he wanted to be with his kid and his wife. And what I think she notices because they're on a boat. So Jenny notices that there's like a lot of canned food. And so she's like, oh, you're going away for a while. Like, hey, you have no idea. You have no idea.
That's pretty messed up because, so basically, his plan was, I'm gonna go out into the Pacific Ocean, and I'm gonna just be away from this shit.
Yeah, I think he was like one of those people that like, I don't want to be here when it goes down. I'm the Secretary of Treasury, so I'll probably get to go into the caves and stuff like that. But do I really?
Yeah. Would he need to? I don't know. Is that ethical? Like, do you think that's ethical? Like, if someone was a government official and they resign and they just get the F out, they like go to Siberia or they go to Greenland or whatever, like, how would you feel about that if you knew someone did that, using that information to do that?
Not great. I mean, like, in this same scenario?
Yeah, the same scenario. Like, they work for the government, they know the comet's going to come, and what they do is they quit and then they go to Greenland. Or New Zealand or something.
Not necessarily ethical. I mean, I think it's a dick move that he didn't give his daughter a chance to like maybe live in the caves, like, because the air is going to be toxic. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're going to live above land or anything like that. And he knows the science. He knows the outcome of what's going to happen when a comet hits Earth at extinction level proportions. It seems like he's not really trying. I don't like the fact that he brought his kid along. And if his place is now empty, does somebody else get to take his place? Yeah, it's the kid thing. I think he should have just like stuck it out for her and gone into the caves, like, instead of just taking off with her and it doesn't matter where you're going. You can't outrun it. It's an extinction level event.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, I think people. Oh, by the way, should mention that this character is played by James Cromwell, who's like, he was in the Star Trek movie. Well, he's the guy who invents warp, right?
Drive.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dr. Zephram Cochrane.
Yeah.
Who's a huge letdown to everyone when they meet him.
Yeah, he is a bit of a it's like I think they see him, they're like, this guy? What?
It's funny, James Cromwell actually did a cameo playing the same character in Enterprise.
Oh, that's
He's giving
cool.
like a speech that actually Jordy's talking about. Yeah. Like
That's
I went
hilarious.
to Zephram Cochrane High School.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so basically it's sort of a like everyone, like he knows he just wants to get the hell out of Dodge. And he calls it like the story of the century, but she still hasn't put two and two together, right? She doesn't understand that she thinks it's about an affair, and then she thinks it's about an affair with the president. So she's off base, but she's close. She's onto something. And so then the FBI runs her off the road. That's another fun part of living in DC or whatever, is like all the kind of intrigue and the espionage or whatever.
So they can just run you off the road whenever you want. Don't worry. I like how they're just like, don't worry about your car. We'll tow it back later. Just like, I'm not worried about my fucking car.
Yeah, like, who are you guys? Well, you're gonna black bag me.
Yeah, that's like the least of my issues right now is what's gonna happen to my car.
Yeah.
Thanks. Do you validate parking too?
Yeah. Oh my god. So then she has this kind of cloak and dagger meeting with what ends up being the president, and he's again, they don't say it, but they think that she knows about this what's the fucking comet, and so then they're like, okay, so we'll go, don't say anything, and then we'll go public in 48 hours and we'll give you the first question. And she's like, oh, okay. And then that's the end of the meeting, and then she like, in this, I guess this wasn't Google, this was like Netscape search engine or something.
It was old.
It was old.
Like you can even see the graininess. You know how like in movies now they clean up the picture on a computer that obviously is like my screen is a freaking Mac and it's grainy sometimes. But then they couldn't even clean it up that well. It's still like super pixelated. But yeah, she's doing her little Netscape search and being like cool reporter and stuff like that. I like that they actually show her being smart. She's not just smart because we're supposed to believe she's smart. Like she's actually like good at her job, and she's also not handed everything. Like her immediate supervisor's like, yeah, like you have to follow the chain. Like you do this for 3 years, you get to do this. You do that for 4 years, you get to do that. And then maybe you'll get your own weekend spot at 9:00 at night when no one's watching the news. But that also gives a little peek into her life as well, in that she does want that weekend. Like, what do people do usually on the weekends? They spend time with their families. They have a significant other. She doesn't care. She wants to be doing the news at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. So I think that gives a little peek into her personal life too.
Yeah, and like that person, she has, I don't know if she was a single mom or whatever, but she it seemed like it. And at their newsroom, they had like a place to have your kids.
They had a daycare spot.
They had a daycare.
Like that's pretty cool. Like considering like that's not like they don't, like my job is pretty awesome and they don't have that. Yeah, that was so we get she's like kind of trying to wait her turn to get what she wants, and she's got this kid she's caring for, and working weekends would probably take time away from her child. Exactly.
There's a lot of stuff going on there, and the Téa Leoni character kind of jumps over her, as we'll see.
Well, also in the meeting with the president, she also notices that a lot of canned food as well. Yeah. Which I thought was interesting. And actually on IMDb, apparently where they filmed that is in the Ambassador Hotel where RFK was assassinated in the kitchen, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's doing her little Netscape,
And then she finds out it's not Ellie, it's ELE, which is, and she goes to this like website. It's like the University of Berkeley. It's extinction level event. And she's like, oh shit.
That was a good moment. Like that was a good another oh shit moment, and I liked it because she's putting the pieces together. She's like using her brain and she's being smart, and she's like, this can't be what what? Like, what is this? Like, why would it be an extinction level event? Like, what could cause that? And I like it. There's a few good shit moments in this movie.
Yeah. And so then she has a meeting with her dad and his new wife, and
Super awkward.
Super awkward. She gets a martini and she's like guzzling. But she hasn't told them anything. But
like vodka. I'm assuming it's a vodka martini because that shit is strong.
Yeah. That's like when you're like trying to get blasted.
Yeah. Give me all that vermouth and shit.
Yeah. And so then she tells her dad, "You got to get back with mom. She's depressed and sad." And it's really funny. It's like, "Hey, listen, new wife person, I don't hate you, but you don't get it. Exactly. You don't get it. You don't get what's going on. He needs to leave."
Well, it's also funny that they gave her earrings. Tila only doesn't have pierced ears. If you like, this is probably something only a woman might notice, but like, she doesn't have pierced ears. Like, her reaction is perfect.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something I didn't notice, but I'm glad that you noticed it, because like that makes sense. It's just like, what the F are you doing, right?
Do you know me? Like,
yeah, do you know anything about me?
Because like, I'm sorry, gentlemen, you might not understand, but for a girl, unless you're a man with pierced ears, so then whatever, you're included. Getting your ears pierced as a girl is kind of like this weird rite of passage sometimes. It's also extremely painful, so we remember it. It's painful for like a split second. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal. And the fact that he didn't realize that, I mean, I don't know if that was just because maybe it was played that way because she was like, "Ugh, I don't want you to give me nice things," or it's, "Ugh, you don't know that I don't have pierced ears." Either way, it was really good. It's such an awkward meeting. I'm so glad my parents aren't divorced and dating other people.
I know, that's and the thing is, this woman is younger, like looks like half.
She's like 2 years younger than her, 2 years older than her.
Yeah.
It's so like, I'm glad we have things we can relate to. So which boy band did you like? Did you like?
Yeah.
Did you like Backstreet Boys? Like,
yeah.
Did you have a picture of John Stamos too? So uncomfortable.
Oh my god, it's so awkward. Yeah, so then she basically bounced out of that. She's like, "See you later. Like, you gotta get away from this woman." And then there's the news conference with the president, and so she not only does she jump over this person who she was supposed to be under, but she also now gets to sit in the front in in this DC newsroom with the president. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And then he breaks the news: a comet the size of New York City is headed to Earth. It's it's gonna hit a year from that date, and basically the U.S. and Russia have built the biggest spaceship ever, called the Messiah, and they already have a team, and they already have a plan to,
we got John freaking Favreau on this.
John Favreau.
Young John Favreau. Oh my god.
Good old Johnny Favs back in the day when he was acting.
Yeah, when he was just acting. Yeah. I like that he pops up and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's John Favreau. There's who else is on this team? Robert Duvall. There's some other interesting Mary McCormick and Blair Underwood. And then there's this guy, this kind of Tim Roth lookalike guy.
Not Hilary Swank, who I thought was in the film. I don't know why. I literally was waiting for her to. I literally paused and I was like, "Where's Hilary Swank?" Oh my god! You know how you can be embarrassed just sitting by yourself? That's me. That was me. I was like, "Where's Hilary Swank?"
Yeah. Where is she? No, we get this other person instead. I like this.
Yeah, I thought Mary McCormick was Hilary Swank.
I could see that. They're definitely there's a look there that's similar. Yeah. So now at this point, Leo has gotten credit for this comet. And he's super famous, and everyone in the neighborhood's like, "Oh my god, you're famous! How cool!"
You're gonna
And
get
of course,
laid.
yeah, that was an interesting scene.
I heard. I
Dorky
read
kid.
that was like improvised. The kid just was like supposed to say something
Oh
else,
my god!
and everyone just like all these like this room full of like 100 teenagers just like wouldn't compose themselves. It's like that's that kid in class who would always say shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the freaking clown, the class clown. They had the class clown say the line, of course.
Yeah, but no, it was yeah. I think the president thought he was dead, didn't he? Like people thought he was dead at first.
They thought that he was in that crash. Like the both of them just were like in the car. Holy fuck! We gotta tell everyone.
Yeah, like why would a 14-year-old be at an observatory for God's sakes? Like that makes no sense. But no, I thought it was cute that they named it after him. A vessel of destruction or a rock of destruction is gonna be named after you. Cool.
That would be cool.
I mean, to an extent, it'd be cool. If it was different circumstances, I think it'd be way cooler.
It would be way cooler. What would be, you'd be taught in history, like, your name would be there forever.
Very true.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it, do you want to be associated with this comet that kills a bunch of people? I don't know. Well, I mean, the discovery is kind of cool. Like, that's a cool. Like, if this could have totally happened. Like,
yeah,
if you're like how old is he? Like, you look like 12 or 14 or something, maybe.
I think they aged them up personally. I thought they looked a lot younger than they were supposed to be. But
right?
Elijah Wood's always kind of had that like really young, boyish looking face.
Absolutely,
anyway. So it's kind of hard to place his age. Also, he was making a ton of stuff in the 90s, so it's kind of hard to. How old were you when you did this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because his part of the story is the discovery, which is good. I mean, that's right, because if we didn't see it in time, like we'd be dead.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His discovery allowed it to have more time to fix, come up with a plan.
Yeah.
So then, we get all this stuff with the astronauts, which is kind of fun. There's this funny, like the Russian guy has this funny line where it's like, oh, it's a nuclear reactor in space made by the people that made Chernobyl. It's very safe. It's
very
like,
safe.
Okay,
I don't know if I trust that, but okay.
Yeah. And so, like the crew, it's all these kind of like it's like television. Like basically, half these people are like doing big TV shows now, pretty much. Like it's like these TV, the TV people is the crew of this that are gonna go and blow up this comet. And so then there's Spurgeon Tanner, which is played by Robert Duvall, and he's like, so he's been to the moon. He's like a veteran, space guy.
Yep.
But he hasn't been training with the other crew. They've been like doing all the all the training for like actually doing all the stuff to deal with this comet, but he's kind of there. He's just supposed to, I don't know, get them to the comet.
I think he's supposed to just be the pilot, basically. So I guess he doesn't really need the same kind of training because they have to actually drill into the comet. They have to set like the bomb or the warhead, basically. And he just has to basically park it and get them back, which is still, I'm sure, a job, not taken away from it. But yeah, that's kind of so they kind of see him as like, oh, he's just the old dude. Like
and the one guy, the Tim Roth lookalike even says like, you're just here for PR reasons or blah blah blah. And he's like, hey dude, this isn't a video game. The shit's gonna get real. Like you have no idea. So and then the spaceship, we lift off. We see the Atlantis. They have eight nukes on the ship, which is like, man, could you like okay?
That's a little hair raising.
The other thing too is like, we did like watching this and like watching all these films. It's like, man, being an astronaut's crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy. Like there's like, it's basically a death sentence on many levels. I think nowadays, our success rate is getting a little bit higher. Yeah. But it's like stuff like this. This is a death sentence. This is a death sentence.
Yeah,
like
99% probably not coming back.
The Atlantis could have blown up with 8 nukes. That could have been it.
On takeoff, and then we really would have been fucked because that's 8 nuclear warheads going off with all of the fuel from like it would have been that would have been an extinction level event, for God's sakes. Like, oh my God.
Yeah,
God.
so it's just like it's just crazy, like how many different risks you have to take just to get into space and just to do all this stuff. It's unbelievable that any people would sign up to do this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, I would not. I would. No thanks.
Yeah.
Just like the liftoff part alone. Like we have to get off the ground safely.
I went to Kennedy Space Center once, and they have this simulation of what it's like to actually kind of take off.
Oh, cool.
Which was nice because like you don't have to actually risk being in a being the Wile E. Coyote strapping the bomb to your back.
Yeah, the Acme bomb.
Yeah. The Acme rocket. That's basically what you're doing.
The Acme rocket in a tin can. Sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the ground.
I like the ground too. So what did you think of this spaceship? Did you like the design?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It looked pretty NASA-y. Just bigger. No, I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, it's cool. It is it's like a giant, right? It's like a giant NASA kind of spaceship, basically.
Oh, it's big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. So then we see Jenny Lerner again, and so picking up on her story, she gets promoted, of course, because she she got a chance to ask a question of the president in the biggest press conference ever. So she gets promoted, and she basically immediately gets put on air, and she's gonna be the person leading this coverage of the space attempt to blow up the comet. So then we pick up and we see them doing this this mission, and so they're trailing the comet, and they fly in, and the Tanner's able to like land the he's able to like get them like to where they're supposed to be, and then the other astronauts kind of jump out and they do this drilling. Which I guess they train in this universe, they train them to do the drilling. They don't need to like
Harry Stamper's on Earth. Okay, he's not going anywhere. Billy Bob Thornton isn't recruiting anybody.
They do a really good job of like when they show the Taya Leone and she's talking to these experts. And they talk about basically right the comet's turning, and they get to it at a point, and they have it's like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, they're on time crunch.
Yeah, before it flips so that they would be basically the temperature is going to rise by 350 degrees when they get to the.
Yeah, because the sun's going to be in they're going to be in the wake of the sun, basically.
Yeah, they'll be in the wake of the sun, and that's crazy. Yeah.
I don't know if you know what it's like being right next to the sun, but it's actually not great.
Yeah, and they also this was really interesting the way they depicted this, where all the once the sun does hit it, basically it's just a bunch of it's a bunch of geysers, and it's just because it's a bunch of ice, and then the ice gets hit with the heat, and then you get steam. And so they're doing this, and then one of the bombs kind of gets stuck, and so the guy, he's trying to kick it down or fix it or whatever.
Yeah, kick a bomb. That sounds good.
Seriously, he's kicking the bomb. This is another thing that's interesting between this and Armageddon. So they bring up the Steve Buscemi character in that movie. He brings up Dr. Strangelove. It's kind of funny, and he's riding the bomb when they're low.
Yeah. Again, that's another thing about the difference is that I didn't give a shit about any of the astronauts in Deep Impact. I cared about Robert Duvall because it's Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Because I like him, and because he's the only one that they really kind of show. You see them interact with their families. One of them's oh yeah, we're gonna get married and blah blah blah. But I don't know, I think it might also be because Robert Duvall is old. Maybe I have a soft spot for like old dudes who are going on a one-way death trip.
Yeah.
And
his wife's already dead too.
Oh yeah, and his wife's dead, and his sons are all grown up, and like he doesn't really have anything left really to do except retire, which he's already basically. I'm assuming he was already in retirement when he got that call. But it was again like I just felt more at home with the characters of Armageddon because they did have that montage that shows you who these characters are. Like we see, like Owen Wilson's riding away from a helicopter on a horse. It's like what?
I forgot he was in that movie.
Yeah, like him and Ben Affleck have that great little scene during another montage where they're just like I'm Han Solo, you're Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Chewie.
It's like, no, I'm Han Solo.
Have you even seen Star Wars? Like, it has like that. It has that pop culture reference to it that gives it that like almost Joss Whedon speak. And I didn't care. Yeah, I didn't care about the astronauts until it was a little too late in Deep Impact.
Well, I feel it's literally like the last scene.
Yeah, it's literally the last scene.
I feel like they treat them like astronauts. I think that's why.
Exactly. I think that's why too, because they don't have to go through all the hard. We don't see them train. We just know that they are because there is a year that passes. We don't see a year pass in Armageddon. They just have like a week of training and then they get shot into space. These are already like established astronauts who just need probably a similar amount of time to train, but like they're smarter. They know what it's like being in space. And maybe the Mary McCormack character, because she had a little bit more screen time with Robert Duvall. But yeah, I really wanted to like them, but there really wasn't anything there, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think, I really think it's because they treat them like astronauts, and like astronauts, they don't have a lot of personality, Even
I could not name you one single astronaut that's working today.
No,
I can name ones. I can Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, but
the only one that comes to my mind, he just got elected as a senator in Arizona. I forget his name. He's a twin too. I forget his name, but that's the only guy that comes to my mind.
John Glenn. I can't think of any contemporary astronauts that are working today. Like they're a
specific type of person and personality. They're very kind of robotic and very, they're engineers.
They have to be able to do that job. Like they have to be very detached. And like, I get why they are the way that they are in the film, but an audience has to care at the same time. Like, and even watching First Man, like Neil Armstrong's very detached in that film. Like we even discussed it before, but I still care about him. I still didn't think, even though I know he does make it over that crater, I didn't think he was going to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's really the weakness of this film is like, there's no central person that we really care for. I think it's supposed to be like Leo, but even with him, we're kind of away from his story so much that it doesn't really connect for us.
Yeah, I think I cared the most about Tia Leone's character.
Yeah, her too. It's just we're spread kind of thin. I think this does a good job of like depicting what happens. Like this would be good if it was a novel. If they novelized this and like really kind of fleshed out the characters more and like gave us a lot of like hard science. Like, oh, okay, so like after the first thing failed, then blah 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 blah. The government did this and that. Like that would be good. That would have been good.
I agree. I think novelized it would have been. I would have cared a little bit more.
And we would have had more time. You could have had, multiple chapters basically where you're just dealing with just the Tia Leone character, just the Elijah Wood character.
Yeah.
We just don't get enough time. Like basically all the time they did to establish the astronauts was like that barbecue. That was it.
The barbecue, the bar scene, and then after they kind of screw up planting the warhead. Also, what I think is interesting is that in Armageddon, we see the destruction very quickly of what this asteroid is going to be causing. Like it hits New York City, there's chaos, there's mayhem. We don't see, we just hear what's going to happen until the very end. Like, you have to wait an entire, like, almost hour and a half before anything, like, actual disastery happens. You're mostly just dealing with how humans will react to all of it, which in and of itself, just watching War of the Worlds, we know how people are going to react. They're going to be, I like how even the president says during one of his conferences, he's just like, no hoarding. And so I'm like, really?
You will have to pay your bills.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, go to your room, but don't sneak out the window. It's like, okay, Dad. It's like, you still have to pay your bills, you still have to do all this stuff. I'm like, it's not how people are at all.
That's a great point. There was another actually movie that I saw recently called Greenland, which is basically the same plot as this, and they do show destruction before. I think that's actually a really good point, because it sets up the stakes for us, right? Like, if we see, okay, like a smaller part of this thing can blow up a whole city, and we get that scene is crazy in Armageddon when it's like, what's that? Is it Eddie Griffith? Yeah, it's Eddie the Griffith, and it's him and his dog with this Samoan guy.
Somebody call 911. Like, there's that tiny bit of humor amongst all this chaos, but like, it's really scary. Like,
yeah, it is.
And again, that you're just seeing what a tiny piece of it can do.
Yeah.
And it sets the stage for, we have to move really quickly. We don't have time to dick around and all this other stuff. But it also gives you this sense of like the asteroid's the villain. The asteroid's like, even when they're on the asteroid, it's just like this eerie alien world. And it makes noises, like it groans almost, and it's very unwelcoming. So we have a villain right from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, even though it's a freaking asteroid.
They're also on it for
the whole movie. Like, most of the movie, they're on the asteroid. And it's not even just, it's a whole bunch of other elements that are surrounding it too. And it fights back in ways too. So I feel like the setup was just it invests the audience to really root for the characters to save Earth, because we already saw it destroy New York City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then later we see another part of it hit, like Paris or something, and we just see Paris get blown up. So I definitely think those things are more effective than what they do in this film. I think they were really going for a more realistic approach.
Yeah, I think they were going for like the Contact feel of things, which was like the hard science and showing how human beings will react and what the game plan is. Basically, we build up the game plan of everything, which is really important. I also like that the president mentions that other countries around the world are also doing something similar. It's not just a USA kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I like that element of it, like, because I feel like some people would want to know how other countries are handling things. Like, we want to know how the UK and France and Germany is handling COVID. We should want to know, like, just as much as they probably want to know, or laugh at us, how people have handled COVID here. But I digress. I think it was a nice touch and realistic again.
Yeah, totally. So they're doing this mission on the comet, and then the sun hits, and then we see all this all this stuff, basically all the steam shooting out of the comet, and I think his name's Orion. He's like kicking the bomb, trying to get it to keep digging, and then they just have to get the hell out of Dodge. Like, they didn't do it perfectly, but they got it on there as well as they could, so then they got to get the hell out of Dodge. They get out there, but then, so this guy gets blinded. Orion gets blinded by the sun because he didn't put down his visor in time. Jon Favreau floats off into space. Yeah, he just says,
poor Jon Favreau.
Poor Jon Favreau.
Yeah,
he's just gone. Gone. Okay, here's the other thing too. Like, do we really think that they don't give people a cyanide pill?
Well, we talked about it, I think, when we watched Contact. I think they do. Personally, I definitely think.
Listen, I don't want to float off into space, and then just that's it. You're just gonna float. That's it.
Wait till your oxygen runs out. You're just gonna suffocate. That doesn't sound like fun to me personally.
F that. Nah, I'm biting down on the pill.
Yeah, me too. I'm not going out suffocating.
Yeah. No, that's a bad way to go. That's a bad way to go. I understand for PR purposes why they don't want to like be like, oh yeah, because like again, we kind of like give them this image like they're I don't know, like perfect people, and that there's no fear. It's like they're totally harrowing. It's like, nah, dude, like this is some dangerous stuff that the astronauts can go through.
Absolutely. I definitely think they give it to them.
Yeah.
Also, maybe this is a little weird to say, it's kind of more humane, I guess. Like, do you really want to have that on your conscience that you just let someone float off into space and suffocate? Like,
I do not want to just float off into space. That's not how I want to die and suffocate. That sucks.
And like even Star Trek has done stuff like that where they don't mention any kind of cyanide pill, and there's been plenty of times where they're just literally floating out there waiting for someone to come pick them up. I'm just like, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah. I thought the sequence was really good too, actually. Like when everything starts going wrong, you kind of see like inside of their helmet and they're running and stuff.
Oh yeah, like you see like that the sun literally hit him and he immediately just starts frying. It's so horrible. It is so horrible to think about. The other one gets his arm super burned and like he's literally blind. Like that's it. No coming back from that.
That's it. He is blind. Yeah, like again, like space is I mean, do you remember like in the Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams one, like Bones has some really funny line about space.
Space is disease and terror wrapped in darkness and silence.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's good because that's exactly what it is.
That is exactly what it is. Did he ever say that in like the TOS? Or did they
I don't think so, but he's said plenty of other horrible things. Like, why are you in space? Like,
yeah.
Bill, because his wife took the whole damn planet in the divorce. That's why. But
yeah. All I got left is my bones.
Which is interesting. I don't think they ever mentioned having been married in TOS. I think that was just something made up for the Abrams verse, unless I'm forgetting something, which is totally possible. But no, space is disease and terror wrapped in darkness and silence. Yeah, it's an unwelcoming place.
Yeah, no, it is not. Humans are not meant to be in space at all.
No, you can cushion it up and pretty it up as much as you want, but nope.
Yeah. So then they, on the MSNBC telecast, they're like, oh, Gus Partenza, he flew off into space and he died. They basically give him an on-air salute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
It didn't. Yeah. So that's the other thing too. So it explodes and then it creates two of them, and one is really
It's so like when you put duct tape on on like a crack in your windshield or something, it just doesn't make it work. It just makes it worse.
Yeah, and the thing too is like both of them are gonna hit Earth still. So it's a total disaster. They've plotted the trajectory of the smaller one, where it's gonna hit, and it's not good. Well, the big one, that's game over.
Oh yeah, game over, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, I wrote this note. It was like maybe they would have succeeded if they had brought the oil drillers.
Yeah,
that was their problem. No one knew how to drill a hole.
They're kicking themselves, being like, "Oh, we should have called Harry's fucking stamper."
Yeah, I know.
Where's my Godet?
Okay, so now
that's what he's doing.
Yeah. So now the plan is to wait until the comet's really close and fire a bunch of nukes at it. That's our plan. Yeah, but the problem is they can't shoot them until it's like a couple hours away. So that sucks. The second backup plan is the lottery. So there's 1 million people they're going to send to Missouri, this Limestone Cliffs, Missouri. But they're going to choose only 800,000 people randomly because 200,000 are scientists and doctors, engineers, teachers, blah, blah, blah. And so the computer's going to randomly select 800,000 people. And like we were talking about before, people that are over like 50 are automatically
disqualified.
He declares martial law. He does all this stuff. And yeah, it's chaos. That's oof. Okay. So here's a question for you. Let's say you're not selected. And this is actually really good to bring up because this is like this actually the scenario that's playing out here is an East Coast problem, really.
Oh yeah.
This is they know it's going to hit basically the Atlantic, and it's going to absolutely devastate the whole seaboard.
I'm fucked.
Yeah, what would you do? Like, you know that you have, I think it's like 2 weeks. They say from this point until it's gonna hit. Like, what would you do if you knew this was the scenario?
I'd probably call a bunch of people. If I knew people who were going, I'd be like, "Hey, it's cool. I love you. Rebuild the human race." I don't know, just spend as much time with my loved ones who also maybe haven't been selected. Take a trip to go up north, probably, where it's really beautiful. Maybe go to the mountains. I don't know. I mean, there's no point. Like, you can't outrun it. Like, I think the survival instinct in me would be like, I think I can try, but I'm also a realist, and I just, make my peace with whatever's out there in the universe and just probably live stream it. Not gonna lie.
Oh my God!
Someone would. Someone
absolutely would.
Somebody
Yeah.
would. You got that stupid asshole.
You know,
who would probably live stream it.
Honestly, like there's a really good scene where it's Téa Leoni and her dad, and they get hit by a tidal wave. That's what would be live streamed. Is like some guy and he sees the freaking tidal wave.
Yep. Like somebody would be live streaming it, like in this day and age. But yeah, probably just. I mean, I'm contending with everybody else who's trying to get up north too. Yeah. I mean, if Ryan wasn't selected too, then I'd just hang out with him, cuddle my dog, maybe go ride a horse.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, do some things that I've been meaning to do and just been putting off, when it comes, but, need a extinction level event to get me to go do. Yeah. Yeah, I remember being super happy when I was a kid living closer to the northern side of things. So I'd probably do something like that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if I knew that I wasn't gonna live, I don't know. I that's kind of hard for me because I think that I would head for the mountains or something.
Yeah.
I think I would just try to live as much as I could but have that cyanide pill ready.
Yeah, that too.
Like when it gets bad, it's time to go. But I'll try. I'll give it my best to try and continue my line, my lineage.
Yeah, I'd probably read some like poetry. That sounds probably really lame, but like I probably
that actually sounds really good.
Yeah, I don't because I don't pray or anything like that. Yeah. So I think I'd probably just want to be as like spiritually connected to something comforting as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. Probably steal something. I don't know.
I just feel like yeah. I think.
Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
it's okay.
Don't smoke cigarettes anymore. But like, and Ryan obviously doesn't like smoking or anything like that. But I would definitely probably. Oh, dude, I would take shrooms. I would do some psychedelics. I would totally do some psychedelics.
I think the thing too. This could be interesting to explore in like a whole nother kind of thing. But I think there'd be a huge contingent of people who they become very bohemian, they like do drugs and they
especially now. Like I think especially now with like how some of our culture is going. I think that I feel like there would definitely be some kind of new kind of lifestyle and culture that would be born in a very short period of time. Not all of it good, not all of it bad. There would definitely be something like that. I would definitely call my brother and be like, give me some shrooms because the world's ending and I want to do it. I want to open my third eye before it's too late.
Yeah. I think there would definitely be a lot of like free love, just people out, just sort of very communal, like sharing everything and just doing drugs and just like reading poetry and having fun and frolicking in the woods or something. I think you'd find some place where there'd be a ton of people, like thousands of people doing that.
Mhm.
Thousands, I'm telling you, would be just doing that. And that's what they would spend the last whatever amount of time doing, is just like, yeah, well, we're all going to die, but we'll be together having fun and sort of doing the most, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I saw it,
Libertine
yeah,
thing.
I'd be doing my thing for a while, reading my poetry, doing my shit, being with my loved ones, and then if I see it coming, I'm like, pop a shroom. I want to see how the world looks and do the act, because I bet I'm gonna feel really good.
Yeah. I feel like, because you want to go out happy, right?
Oh yeah, I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be terrified. I don't want to feel like I don't know what it. There have been very few moments where I feel like I'm gonna die. You know what? Personally, like I haven't had too many moments like that, except in the winter driving. But yeah, I'd want to feel good about something. Also, I do still feel like there would be some mass panic in a lot of ways. I feel like maybe, I mean, I would hope that it wouldn't be as, I feel like I would like to think, because we all know we're going to die together, we should just like enjoy our company. But yeah, I still feel like there would probably be some mass panic in certain areas, maybe more city side, maybe less rural. But yeah, I'd want to go out happy. I don't want to be like crying or anything. I'm sure I still would, but like, yeah, just go up to Mount Washington, just hang out there.
There's never really been like this type of event for, like, there's been the plague and these other kind of terrible things, but like instantaneous mass murder of millions of humans, that's
out of your control. It's not even like another country doing it or anything like that. It's completely out of your control. It's coming from space. Like,
yeah.
Also, you asked me when we watched War of the Worlds, you had asked me if I'd ever been in like a super panicky like scenario with like a bunch of other people, and I don't know why I didn't remember this. I remembered it later. I was in a Pizza Hut once, and it was very scary. They were very busy. There was a ton of people waiting for their pizza. There was one girl at the register, and no one was helping her, and the tension was horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, people were raising their voices, people were screaming, and I was just like, I literally said, "You realize she's the only person there, right?" Like, I was that person. I was like, she's the only person right there. And I looked at this one lady. I was like, if you want to go do it, you can. Like, you can. And then I looked at some guy who was walking by on his phone, and I was like, you can help her. Like, you need to help her, because you are about to have a riot on your hands over pizza.
That is crazy.
I was like, I had my best friend in the car. He texted me. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I might die. And I
over pizza.
I literally said, if I call you, you need to come in and help, or you need to call the police. Like, something might go down. That's insane. That was a terrifying experience. I don't know why. I think I blocked it out because it was actually really, really scary.
That sounds pretty traumatic. Yeah.
It was literally over pizza.
But that's the thing, right? Like, when that fever breaks, when it hits a pitch, and people are just like, I want this, or and then it kind of feeds in on itself.
And it affects everyone, and that's what it was even affecting me a little bit, because like I could feel myself getting annoyed, because I was waiting a long time for something that I had ordered 30 minutes ago, and like what kept me grounded was like I hung on to my empathy, because I've done her job. I know how shitty it is, and she has no idea what she's doing. She's overwhelmed, and the last thing that's going to help is like people screaming at her. Like, if it's that big of a deal, go to freaking Domino's. It's right down the street, bro. Like, there's a chain of restaurants as far as the eye can see on this strip of road. Like, go anywhere. And I thought I was going to get hit, honestly. I thought I was going to get hit. I thought fur was going to start flying. And it was tense. It was the most tense situation I've ever been in my life. So that's why I'm heading to the mountains.
Yeah, you want to be away because like there's gonna be a microcosm of that. You know, man, I just imagining the lines at the freaking Costco after something like this was announced. Oh, they failed. Well, yeah, people, because then people start doing things where they're violent. It's like, people like, there's gonna be people shooting each other and stuff.
Which is why I still think those subcultures of people who just want to enjoy the company of other people and want to care and maybe read a little poetry, maybe read a little, I don't know, will congregate to one another, because those aren't the type of people who are going to be like shooting up a place because the world's ending.
Yeah, they're just going to embrace it. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a good discussion. Because I feel like this is like, and I feel like this is kind of on point for right now, because like, again, we're lucky that this isn't, it's not like the plague or whatever. It's not going to kill tons and tons of people. But there was that moment, right, when Trump said, "Hey, like we're in an emergency." People freaked out. I mean, I was there that day at a Costco. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
Everyone's phone goes off at once and everyone stops. Trump declared a state of emergency.
Yeah.
You're just looking around at everybody. They're all thinking the same exact thing. That's no.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, me and my girlfriend, we went to the Costco that was near our house. Couldn't park, so I left her in the car, and I'm running around, and people are like taking all the ramen, just 10 of them in their cart, all the toilet paper.
Well, I was say ramen and toilet paper. That's it.
At that point, they had like everyone got like 2 at most, so they rationed it at that point. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's like that. It's immediate. People just panic. They're like,
No, exactly.
And then if the fever hits a pitch, then it gets to another level, like you were in that pizza in the Pizza Hut. Yeah. It's not a good feeling.
No,
it's human beings at their lowest, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Messiah, they failed, unfortunately. The crew is kind of screwed because like the guy who got blinded, he was like the captain basically, and he's
basically,
yeah, he's done. Jon Favreau is dead. Yeah, so they've only got, I don't know, was there like 4 of them left or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still alive, but they don't know what to do because they're like, well, we failed, but so they decide to fly back to Earth because they can get there faster than the comet. Yeah, and so then Jenny is talking with her mom, and the mom is, this. How did you feel about this conversation she had with her after the news came out? This is kind of interesting scene.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I felt, like if I was not selected and stuff like that. She just kind of accepts it. She gives like a lot of her artwork and, important things and valuable things to like, so that they can be saved. And yeah, I don't think Jenny realized that was probably the last conversation she was going to have with her. I think it should have tipped her off with a couple of things she said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like nothing in my apartment.
Yeah, like I'm giving away everything. Like she knows. Freaking fly, die, go away. I hate flies. Vermin.
Yeah, flies suck.
Sorry.
You need one of those swatters.
Yeah, like why didn't she give any of her things to Jenny? Like, it's just kind of it's a little eerie. But yeah, it's also kind of sad. I just like I can't help like thinking about my mom and stuff like that. So
yeah, let's sort of talk about what happens with. I think she commits suicide, right? Like the mom.
Yeah, she does. They imply
they gloss over it, but she. Okay, so yeah, that's. See, like this is the thing that I kind of like about this movie. Is we get none of this in Armageddon. It's just
no,
the characters are better for sure, but all of the implications are like not really talked about.
No.
Other than the Steve Buscemi character taking out like a bunch of loans, like he like gets a bunch of loan shark money or something and goes goes to a bunch of strip clubs.
Pretty much.
That's the closest we get. It's to pure hedonism and libertinism.
Exactly.
But
There's that libertine, bohemian lifestyle we were talking about.
But this is really so. Like, what do you think of someone doing that? How does that make you feel? Like, if you knew someone you was really close with, you cared about a lot, was going to kill themselves, like, how would you feel about that?
I wouldn't be okay with it. I wouldn't be like, yeah, we're gonna get hit, but can't we just like enjoy it together? But then again, like, it's a touchy subject. It really is.
It really is.
I mean, I can't help it. I'm still human. I wouldn't be okay with it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not my choice, but like, it kind of sucks. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a really rough one because, on a lot of levels, that's really, because this is actually when things really start to break down. Because when people start, and they've shown this, like for instance, when famous people commit suicide, there's more suicides.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It does happen.
Mm-hmm. When people, because when basically society says that's not an option, and we stop people, but when that stops, there's a lot, like, it's surprising how many people, like, they think it's an option and they want to go with it, with committing suicide. And this is another thing. You would see a lot of suicides at this point.
No, I think you would. I think you'd see a lot of mass suicides. I think you'd see a lot of religious mass suicides. That's something that's not really talked about in Contact. I feel like there would still be, even with the potential of communicating with another life form that has nothing to do with God, I feel like a lot of people would go very dark.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it would definitely be something that would be real. I think it would be a real thing that people would do.
Yeah, the rough thing about that too is, like, because I mean, recently, it was a couple years ago now. I forget how long it's been, but like, it was Chris Cornell committed suicide, and then shortly after, he was the lead singer of Linkin Park. He committed suicide too, and that just sort of let off a tremor. And that's the other thing too, is like, because then that stuff just really brings society. That because then it feels like this inevitability, Oh
yeah, and Anthony Bourdain too.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Or, I know this is gonna sound really horrible, not just with the mass suicides. I feel like there'd be a lot of murder suicides. Like, this is really dark, but like, I definitely think that would also be.
Or the like feeding your kids the cyanide pill kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind, like, at all. Like, we see it played out in different kinds of scenarios in different movies and films. Like a mercy kill kind of a thing. But I definitely think it would happen, and that's horrible to say.
It's horrible.
But people don't want to have their loved ones suffer in any way, and it's terrible. But
yeah, because again, in this scenario, if you're over 50, you're donezo.
Yeah.
You'd see. Yeah. That's the real. That's the stuff that really kind of gets to me too. Is like, just thinking about people you care about and them being put in that scenario, and just like, if one person you really care a lot about, that happens to them, where they just give up and they just commit suicide, it's like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that, because I feel like this is like the thing about this film that kind of like makes it unique. It definitely goes there.
Yes, it does.
Armageddon kind of, it's just about the fun and the spectacle.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the characters and the fun characters. This is more about the implications. What actually happens to society? What's the plan? Yeah, and so the other thing we see is Leo and his family, they get chosen. But his neighbor Sarah and her family, they're not chosen. So Leo decides to marry Sarah so they can all go. Okay, is it legal for like an 8-year-old to get married?
I was literally just gonna say I don't think that's legal. Even in dire circumstances, I think it really make an exception for a 14-year-old to like get married.
Like this dude is like 8 years old.
I thought it was a little weird personally. I thought it was weird. Like I was kind of uncomfortable by it. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I get you have to like make the story a little tense and scary. I feel like you still could have had the whole thing with them trying to get on the bus without any of that. I mean, it's still horrible because they thought they were leaving. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so like if you had a child and they were going to be able to get out and you weren't, would you let them stay with you, or would you tell them to
oh
go?
no, their ass is getting on that bus.
Yeah.
Like there's no way in hell. Like,
isn't that weird? Because like what happens in the end is that they basically the same thing happens. Like the parents die, but they give the child to the daughter. So the same thing happens.
Well, what are they gonna do? Kill a baby? Like we already know that the implication that like life is lost no matter what. But then you're really like we see her being pregnant, we see her have the baby, we see the baby as like a little meh, but like are they really gonna show a baby get killed? Like I think they may have just written themselves into a corner with that one.
They did. You're right, they did.
And they're like, we gotta get rid of this kid. Like we can't show the baby die. So we can't show a pregnant woman die. I feel like there was this thing in the 90s where children in really horrible children were put in really horrible circumstances in ways we hadn't really seen before. Like there's a whole movie about it. There's Ransom. Like that's a whole movie about how people kidnap kids.
Yeah, I was
like
watching a part of
that movie. Scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I never left my mom's side.
Like where they show the kid getting basically tortured by these rando ass people. Like he's hooked up to a bed.
Or like how easy it is to kidnap a kid. Like how
the 90s was all about kids getting and the 80s, it was all about people getting kidnapped. Big time.
Yeah,
they put the stranger danger fear in people like.
Oh yeah, like absolutely, because they were getting snatched left and right. Like that was like I was listening to a podcast recently. I don't know if you know this story, but Johnny Gosch, he was a really famous he was a paper boy and he got snatched in the first thing in the morning. Nobody knows what happened. There's some theories about what happened to him. His mom has a lot of interesting things to say. But yeah, they never found out who caught him, and he's the reason why there was pictures of kids on milk cartons.
Yeah.
And it was like this whole conspiracy and cover up and thing. Like, yeah, and that happened in the 80s, and it was a scary freaking time to be a little kid because like, oh, why is my mom all clingy now? It's like, I don't know, because it's suddenly common to have kids get snatched. Yeah. Like they show that in Ransom, just how easy it is. Crowded place, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. Crowded place, your parents look the other way, boom, you're gone.
I wandered off. Happened to my dad.
I used to do that for fun. When I was like, I'm serious. We would be in Macy's and I would just like how they have the racks that are a circle. I would jump inside and hide and then run around.
Oh man, I'd get my ass beat if I did that. Not only that, but my mom would just be embarrassed.
I mean, after a while, I got bored with it. And unfortunately, I didn't for real. But I did that a lot. It was fun for me when I was 5.
My best friend used to climb onto like a rack, like not a rack, but like a shelf. When he was like 5 or 6, and just to screw with his mom and like say to strangers, "Take me."
That's hilarious.
And his mom would be like,
"That is hilarious.
What the hell are you doing?" And he'd be like, "I want to be taken." She's like, "You have no idea what that means."
But like kids are silly,
Kids are stupid like that.
Kids are silly, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. People, like, almost sort of envious of the child's view of the world, because you just never think that anything bad's gonna happen. You think everyone's like your parents and they're all good and they're nice, and they're fun.
Yeah, then they have you watch a movie with Mel Gibson about getting kidnapped. It's like, oh, that can happen. Yeah, so you stay in the yard.
Yeah. Once that reality of life hits you, you never see the world the same again. Yeah. So Leo, they get married. They try and get on the bus. They can't get on the bus. So Sarah stays with her parents for some reason.
Well, I think she could get on the bus, but her parents couldn't. I think that's what it came down to. I think that's what it came down to, was that her parents couldn't come.
Yeah, her parents couldn't come, so she stayed, which is interesting.
I would have knocked my kid out and thrown her on that bus. I'm like, no, there's no way in hell. Like, I'm not even a parent,
exactly.
but like, I would. No, if it came down to just me and Ryan and his kid, I'd be like, your kid's getting on that damn bus. Sorry.
Yeah, because like you want to live. You want to live, you know? Just remember us.
Exactly. Well, it's like that's your number one job as a parent, isn't it? Just to make sure your kid survives. Like, I remember my mom told me I was gonna move out for the first time. I'm like, Mom, I'll be okay. Don't worry. And she's like, I never not worry. She's like, it's always going to be a worry.
Yeah. So okay. So Leo and his family go, but then Leo decides he's gonna go back for her, basically. And so then that was another interesting part too, where he very easily gets back. Where he's this like 8-year-old boy by himself. I don't know.
He's just like he just hops on like this. I don't know. It's like some kind of caravan. His dad gives him a watch to trade, which I actually thought was a nice touch. Yeah. He doesn't give him money. He thinks he's going to need something to trade because money doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, money means nothing. Yeah.
Material things don't really mean anything either, but people hoard in a crisis, you know, like people loot in a crisis. So I thought it was interesting that he gave him something that you're going to need something to trade. He doesn't need money. He needs something to trade, which again, if I was a parent, I wouldn't let like, you gotta go and get her. It's like, it's not like they're 25 and in love. He's literally gonna have like 8 girlfriends in his life. like, come on, kid. But like, they needed to have him save the day. So yeah, he got back way too easily.
He got back way too easily.
This is where they manipulate time in a script. Yeah. I need it to work for me.
So another thing that I sort of forgot to mention, but like, yeah, we talked about, so the president declares martial law, and there's actually like a scene that's really, another scene that's kind of interesting that kind of opens up some bigger stuff. But we see on television, I think it's when Leo goes to see Sarah, when like the dad's like, basically the dad's kind of given up, like Sarah's dad, he's just like, F it. He takes her out of school and all this other stuff. Like they're not taking it well, but they see on the television that like Marines are doing this. There's like, they show a bunch of Marines going into people's houses because I don't know, something happened. But that's another interesting, like imagining looking outside your window and you see the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah, well, it's also kind of like, what I want to know is like, okay, 200,000 people have already been selected who are doctors, scientists, teachers, etc. What about the military? Are they in the lottery too? What's their incentive to keep doing their job? I'm assuming the ones who are actually rounding people up to bring to the caves, I'm wondering if they've already been pre-selected as well, or if they've been selected in the lottery too, because that's only what's fair. I understand why we need doctors and scientists and etc. Don't think we need fucking lawyers personally. But I thought that I was wondering about that too.
I think in this scenario, so this is another thing that's kind of come up recently with Trump. Basically, in this type of a scenario, the military basically runs the country, but
it is martial law.
But because I think in the United States, the chain of command is so strong and well kept together that, the president still has all that power. And basically the answer is that they're going to do what the president says.
Well, yeah, because you still have that duty to protect citizens and serve your country and your president, your commander in chief. So I understand that part of it. I was just wondering, I wonder if these are the guys who have been in the lottery too. And they're the ones who are serving right now. And the rest are just put on active leave or something like that.
Yeah, I suspect that they would call in everybody And I think things would be very hardcore. I think that they would basically say you're not going to make it, but you have to serve the country and protect the country. If you don't, we will kill you. I really honestly think that's what they would say, and that's how they would enforce it. So if you tried to get away, if you tried to do something, not do your duty, they would arrest
It's kind
you.
Kind of like in a situation where like you'd go AWOL. They're gonna probably come after you.
Yeah, they would be very hard on. Because that's the only way you're going to keep the country together, is because the military is going to be, the only presence keeping any semblance of order. And if they go rogue, the whole country goes rogue. So I think the top down, they would basically say, you guys are the only thing keeping this place together. If you get out of line at all, we are not going to have any tolerance. They would court-martial you immediately if you try to not do your duty.
Yeah.
So I think for the military, it would suck. It would suck because you're basically dead.
Yeah.
Because people in the military are property of the U.S. government. They view you as property. 100%.
Oh yeah. You're an asset.
You are their property. You are an asset. And they're going to use you like an asset to protect the country. And so the civilians, like the egghead people, especially like the really, really smart guys, the military's job is to protect them, basically, and to make sure that they exist so that the apparatus of, what makes up most of the American economy could exist after this event happens. Yeah. That's the military's job. So yeah, it would suck. It would suck to be in them because you're probably gonna die, and you're gonna die for a cause of protecting the country. But
you're still serving your country.
But you're probably not gonna get out of this, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. So then we get this. Let me see. Where are we at here? Yeah. So then so Tanner sort of lays out this plan for the astronauts of how they can basically saying we can't do anything about the small one, but the big one we can potentially do this maneuver where we can blow it up, and hopefully it'll be blown up into enough pieces where it'll just sort of burn up in the atmosphere, and it's a suicide mission, so there's no way out of it. But they're like, well, the one lady, she said, yeah, we'll all get a school named after us.
That's the sad part too.
It's so sad.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
It's so sad. But again, this is some real stuff. Like this is that Spock kind of stuff. The needs of the many weighs outweigh the needs of the few. Yeah. And this is totally a scenario that could happen.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And they all got to be down with it.
I mean, this is the job, right? This is the job.
Yep. And they all had to have known that there was a percentage of a chance that like it would get fucked up, and that they would need to maybe do something like this, if not something similar. So, but it's still sad, and
it's super sad.
Yeah, and like that last scene, when they all get their kids and they're all saying goodbye. It's just that's a pretty sad scene. It's when I finally cared.
Yeah, exactly.
The saddest part is like, they couldn't get Robert Duvall's kids in time, and it's just like, and that's
his wife, and he looks at his wife. Yeah,
and that's the realistic part, is that maybe some of them couldn't get there in time, and they couldn't get to say goodbye, and fuck.
Yeah. So then there's also a subplot now we're back with like the newscasters, and they're like drawing straws to see who can take a helicopter out. And so then Jenny basically, so there's been this subplots with her and her dad. So they're trying to make up with each other. And then after the mom committed suicide, the dad kind of tells her like, oh, well, my wife left me, and all this other stuff. And he's kind of apologetic, but it's like, dude, you should have dumped her when I told you the first time, and maybe our mom would be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that the whole mom storyline is really kind of it's a lot, and you think about it. She goes to the wedding of her husband. She like, I don't,
Then the world's ending. I kind of feel like she may have already been on that track. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like she might have already been on that track of what she ended up doing. I feel like this just kind of gave her another reason.
See, that's what I brought up. There's a whole bunch of, again, there's people like that where, you know, they just feel like it sucks, but like, you know, everyone has that moment where you feel like your life is shit, you know?
Oh God, yes. That's a very human feeling to like feel like, ugh, I haven't done anything. Or, you know, like I know I felt in my life personally that like I feel like I've always needed to catch up to other people who are in the exact same position I am. You know what I mean? Like you're behind. Yeah. Like you're behind in whatever, in these made up scenarios, you know, in my mid-20s, it was all of my friends were getting married and having kids and I wasn't. But then it took me getting to 27 where I was like, actually, I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. You know, I don't need to catch up. Like, why do I need to get married and have kids like now? Like, it's this whole feeling of being behind. But I also feel like there's plenty of people who are on a hair trigger who are just holding on to that one more day. The sun will always rise. There will be another day to try again. And then, but if you're put in a scenario where actually the sun's going to be blocked out, the air is going to be toxic, there's going to be a tidal wave 25 feet, what is it, like 100 feet tall or something like that. It's going to wipe out the whole the northeast is going to be gone, leveled in a matter of minutes. A tidal wave that reaches like us to Africa.
Yeah.
That doesn't give anyone a reason anymore. And it's really sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they just give up and then they just take the easiest way out, which is to just end it. Yeah. The whole stuff with the mom is like, and you know, the other thing too is like people, they kind of, what I think is realistic about the character is like, you know, she kind of gives these signals, right? She meets with her daughter and then she talks about her husband, her ex-husband. And then she's like, you know, she's had this line. She's like, oh yeah, I don't even care that I'm not selected. It just makes it easier for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like it makes it easier for her to do what? Like that should have been a huge tip off.
I know. But yeah.
I think Tia Leone was still stuck in a state of wanting things to remain normal. I think she was deluding herself a little bit.
Yeah.
Totally. You know, she doesn't really have this guilt complex of she being the one who gets to go because she doesn't have to draw straws. She already has a place. It's everyone else around her.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that's, you know, what's really effective to, I think about that is like, that's how people do it. No one just says it, right? They just kind of, they give those hints and we don't pick them up. And then it's like, whoa. And then you just realize, oh shit, she was, the whole time they were trying to tell me that they were just going to end it. And I just didn't get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing about people who are genuinely suicidal is that it's touched my family before. And it's something that's very real. They either try and they fail because other things intercede and stop them, which was the case with my grandmother, or it's that one time.
Yeah.
And it's not always obvious. Oh, she's had a couple good months. I don't need to keep watching her. Oh, she's had a few more good months. She went to a place. She's got her pills. She's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that one time. Yeah, and this is before I was. This was like I think a year or the year I was born that my grandmother committed suicide. Mm. It's still like my dad still won't talk about it.
Yeah.
Still like it's been 30 years. Still doesn't. Like it does that. It really does. And it's
it's rough.
It is. It's really rough. And it's this weird trickle down effect too, mm-hmm. which I find very interesting about mental health and how it permeates through your children and things like that. And I definitely think there's something there to it being in your DNA almost, which is interesting that Tia Leone ends up not going.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, they draw straws. She gives up her seat to her coworker with the child. And then there was this also, she met with her dad that day and the dad showed her these pictures of the two of them when she was younger on the beach that her mom had taken. And so
And
then,
they were all happy and everything.
Mhm. And so then she meets with her dad on the beach, and the two stay together to see this gigantic tidal wave.
I really loved that moment. Not them getting hit with the tidal wave, obviously, but like I like that they, make peace. They don't need to be mad. She doesn't need to be mad. She tells him, "Yeah, I remember it. I was only saying that I didn't because I want to be mad at you." And I think he tells her that he confesses he dropped her once when she was a baby.
Yeah, on her head. That was funny.
It was just like that's so something a dad would say. Like, I've been carrying around this guilt for so long, but
Yeah.
I dropped you.
Yeah, like I'm really like a bad dad. I dropped you. I know you took the money, but I think what I did was worse. But c'est la vie.
Exactly. And yeah, they make peace.
They make peace, yeah, and then they're together at the end, which is powerful stuff. And then Leo, we get this whole Leo somehow finds Sarah and her family, and then they get that whole arc just like kind of, I think.
Yeah, his storyline I thought it was weak. I didn't really.
It goes
care
off
for
the
it all that much.
rails.
Yeah.
And he went home, found a motorcycle,
found the key to the motorcycle.
Like, wow.
Went back, didn't run out of gas. Happened to find his girlfriend in a sea of people who everyone had a minivan like that. Yeah. And yeah, thankfully she recognized him in, dirt and sweat and a helmet. Like, thankfully she recognized him.
Yeah, and then they take the baby, and they also get to higher ground, and they get away from
that scene is actually pretty harrowing. I mean, despite me not really liking Leo's storyline all that much, that's a pretty harrowing scene of them like driving up the mountain, and eventually I'm assuming the dirt bike does run out of gas or it gets damaged because they're going straight up a mountain.
Yeah,
they have to run basically.
Yeah, they're just running the last.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard. I thought the special effects were pretty good. I thought they held up fairly well. Like, that's still pretty scary.
So yeah, like we see the smaller one gets an impact, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. Like, you see the tidal wave, like Jenny and her dad are there at the beach, and then you just see this fucking wave.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised the shockwave didn't knock them over or anything like that, but I guess it was just the shockwave hit the water and then it just kept going. I don't know anything about science, but.
Oh my gosh!
And you see, like, there's always a Statue of Liberty shot.
Yeah, you gotta destroy it always. Planet of the Apes, Independence Day. Always gotta blow it up. We gotta blow her up. Unfortunately,
kill that bitch. We don't like her.
Yeah, we gotta kill her. She's Greek, right? She's like Greek or something. I don't know.
I think the French gave it to us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, and like there was like the scene where the wave hits New York City is really something, because you see these people on top of a building, and see the waves go right through all the, and this was like when the World Trade Center, both buildings were there still.
Well, that gives you a scope of how like big the wave is, because only like the tiniest tips of like the World Trade Centers are sticking out. Like, that's massive.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Yeah, it is just wiping people out. It's crazy. Yeah, I definitely thought that they held it pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It still scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh god, this is making sense.
Oof. Yeah. And so then we see the Messiah crew, and like they reach Houston again. They tell them their plan. They're gonna do this suicide run basically. And then they say goodbye to their family, and it's really touching moment. Everyone says goodbye. Like the dude who's blind, his wife and his kid come by.
Yeah.
And then the other astronauts describing to him what his son is doing. Yeah, the one woman, her husband and her daughter come. Yeah. That's crazy. If you could imagine, like, imagine like you see, your mom or dad, and they're about to fly into a comet and blast a nuke, and you can see them in the spaceship as they're about to do it. Like, that is like, whoa.
Be a goddamn basket case.
Yeah. I would be crying uncontrollably.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine being an astronaut. Like being an astronaut, I just can't. I don't know if I could ever do that.
Oh God, me. I know I couldn't.
I don't have the. I don't think I have the fortitude for it. Like there's just so much stuff you have to potentially deal with, and it's all bad.
Oh yeah, it's all bad. I'm good
Okay.
at not doing it.
Here's one thing. Like why did like the Russian guy no love for this Russian guy?
Right? He didn't get to say goodbye to his family. That was sad. I was like, it was just like, fuck you, Mother Russia, one more time. Like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
I thought that was
like,
mean.
Like
He's
we get
sitting in the back.
he is just sitting in the back. It's like, what the fuck? Come on. Like we treat this guy like he's doesn't matter. It's like, dude, this is messed up.
No, and I thought that was pretty mean. Like everybody else got to say goodbye, well, except for Robert Duvall. But like they don't even mention like they couldn't get Russia on the phone or something. Like, oh, sorry,
That
still
kind
not
of
over the Cold War.
yeah, exactly. Like yeah, we're so mad about that. So
we teamed up with Russia, but screw your astronaut.
yeah. Yeah, and so then we see, and like Robert Duvall has this great line. It's like, this is the closest we're going to be to home. And then they fly into the comet. They fly in there, and then they blow it up.
Yep.
And then it explodes, and we see like Leo and Sarah, like they're at the top of the mountain, and they see like all the particles go into the atmosphere. And that's it. And that basically then the president gives a speech. We're gonna rebuild, and they're rebuilding the White House, and like it's over. We're gonna make it. Yeah, so it's like
America.
yeah, America, fuck yeah. I thought the ending was pretty nice. It definitely like hit in the fields for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid ending. I thought it was a solid movie for the most part, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think there were certainly some things like I think that they didn't really get, like there's no character we really care a lot about, unfortunately.
No, not really.
There just isn't. And that kind of really is detrimental. But I think, especially like this discussion we had, like about the implications, I think they did that really well, especially like thinking realistically of like what the path would be for how the government would respond and the astronauts would respond was accurate. Yes,
I agree.
So I feel like this is whoever wrote this, or whoever was a part of this, that was their that's what they wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
I think that's what they wanted to achieve. And I think they did that. I don't think it totally works as a movie. Like I was saying before, I think if this was like a novel and they really expanded things, this would have been good.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it would have worked more as a novel format than an actual movie. Or even a mini series, I feel like would have done it a better justice, honestly. But they're probably mini series budgets on this scale are very different than how they are for like an actual movie. But yeah, I think if they had just had a little more time with the characters, that would have been great. But I understand why, but it didn't really make me care too much about anybody. But oh well, I still think it was a solid film.
Had you seen this before, like back in the day, or was this like the first time you've seen it?
My parents did rent it way back in the day, but only the one time. I think they only rented it the one time because again, my dad was probably on his disaster kick thing.
Yeah. Where would you say this ranks for you in terms of like other disaster movies? Like what are some ones that really come to mind for you, and like where do you think this fits in with those other films?
They would probably be in like a top 10 list, probably. I don't always go for disaster movies because they're generally always the same. Statue of Liberty, destroy the White House, other big important buildings. But I think it definitely stands right next to Armageddon and War of the Worlds and stuff like that. Independence Day, those would all be in my top 10. And I think I would also put Deep Impact in there as well, just because I think it is a hard science-y good movie that that's not bad. It's a good movie. It's not great as far as character goes, but I understand what they were trying to do, showing all these different characters that somehow relate to one another in one way or another.
Yeah, I feel like, I think their goal was to like basically place different characters at different points in this whole thing so that we can see every angle of it.
Mm-hmm.
We see what the astronauts have to deal with. We see like what someone who gets chosen would have to deal with, and then people who aren't chosen. And someone, people that are just going to be like, hey, I'm just going to go and I want to be with my family.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just kind of get these little flashes, but they wanted us to like at the end have characters that are within all these different spheres. So when it happens, we get it from every point of view.
Yeah, and different walks of life, different kinds of characters, like in different areas and stages in their lives as well. You have Robert Duvall, who's the elder, Tia Leone, who's like in the middle ground, and then, Leo, who's a kid, and how they all perceive it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a tough one. So like, let's say that you were chosen, but your significant other wasn't.
Oh, I'm not going.
Yeah.
No question in my mind, I'm not going.
Yeah,
he would have to hug me and throw me like in there. Like I would not go willingly at all. What about you?
That's a tough one. I think I'd be buying that cyanide pill.
One for you, one for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in that scenario I'd really try hard to like figure something out to get them in. Just any hooker by crook, lying, paying people off, whatever it took. Because I would really try hard to live. Because I would not look forward to that biting down on that cyanide pill. But
oh god, no.
If that was a scenario, that's what I'm doing. Like I don't want to get hit by this tidal wave or have to deal with the aftermath of being in, it's the earth is black. This is black every day. You look outside and it's dark.
Oh, yay. Yeah, no, me either. I would try and do everything I could as well, but if it came down to like, no, all your options are exhausted, there's no way out, just like, okay, no, you've never taken drugs before, Ryan, it's time to start because we're gonna have a party.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like that was some of the most interesting discussion is like, the fact that you just want to sort of embrace your inner self and just kind of let go. I think there's a lot of people that would do that.
Yeah, and I want to be around those people. I want to do that. Like, obviously, like there's stuff I'm sure he'd want to do. Ryan's very realistic, so I don't think there'd be a lot of things on that list. But I think he would definitely want to do certain things that I would be like, if you want to do that, let's do that too. Let's see what we can cram into 2 weeks, and let's do it. Oh, I was just thinking he would totally steal a specific kind of car. I forget the name of it, but I know he would. There's no way in hell he wouldn't drive it before.
Go on a little joyride. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, cool. Yeah, I think that just about covers it for this episode. So I was thinking, I feel like we should really do at least one like really kind of COVID related film.
Okay.
And I feel like that film should probably be I Am Legend.
I've never seen I Am Legend.
Okay.
So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think we should do the Will Smith fights the Corona zombies movie.
I'm putting it as my reminder.
All right. Yeah, I think that we should talk about that next. We should talk about this will be the one, pandemic movie we talk about. And yeah, since you haven't seen it,
gotta put it in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta put it. It's basically Will Smith and a dog. Like the dog is very important.
Yes, I've heard that. My little sister loves this movie, but she told me that she cries a lot. So like, I don't remember the last movie I watched where I cried a whole lot. I've been crying watching Buffy, but that's pretty much it. That's not a movie.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was, but
yeah, Buffy's great. Yeah, so we'll talk about this is the peak Will Smith at the height of his powers, where it's just him and a dog, and it made $700 million. So
I'm down. I'll watch
Yeah.
it.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I think that we'll do that next week, or whenever we're gonna next record, because it is December, and I don't know. Did you ever finish your shopping, or are you still?
Ah,
Yeah.
I'm not satisfied. I'm gonna try and either go out today after lunch or tomorrow first thing in the morning. But I'm just not satisfied. I'm pretty much done, but it's like stocking stuffers. I overthink when it should just be candy and a toy. Like, honestly, like, I don't know how my parents did this for 7 people, including extended family. I don't know how they did this. I really don't.
Yeah, probably just very organized and like probably keep it simple. That's what I would think.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, you have a list and you just like boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. I once accidentally found the Christmas gifts. I was not looking. It was totally by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately felt caught, even though nobody caught me. And I didn't tell my parents for like 10 years that I found them.
Yeah. You know what's funny? One time my mom, she hid something so well that she found it like a year later. Yeah, I swear to God. Yeah. It was like a Pokemon card or something. Yeah, it was funny.
Oh my God.
Actually, I think it was even more than like a year. I think it may have been like 4 or 5 years later.
Wow.
I'm not joking. It was that long it had been hidden. Because like at that point I was like not into Pokemon at all. So the last point when I would have been into it was like 5 years prior. Yeah.
Wow.
My mom was like, "Oh, by the way, I bought this for you at some point, but I forgot about it. Here you go." Okay.
A couple of years ago, I had asked for something very specific, and we're opening gifts and blah blah blah. My mom told me like, "Yeah, don't worry, like I'll get it for you." God bless my mom's heart. She put my sister's name on it. So my sister opened it, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is so neat and cool." And I was just like,
I wanted that.
Mine. And my mom was sitting there smiling, completely forgot. It was totally not intentional, but I was like, okay, that sucks.
Wow, that would be infuriating.
I was annoyed. I didn't stay mad, but like I was a little peeved. I was a little peeved,
but did you get the thing, or was it
eventually?
What happened with what?
It's a whole thing.
What? Wait, so you're telling me that she purposely gave it to your sister?
Oh, no. It was totally an accident. My mom is not a vindictive person.
Well, but
I told her.
But that was for you, right?
Yeah, I took her aside like later on in the day.
Your sister.
No, my mom.
Oh, what? Oh my God.
I was like, Mom, you remember the thing I asked for? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, and she's like, oh no. She's like, I was just wrapping presents and putting tags on things. I'm so sorry. And I'm just like, it's okay. But
so then you both like went to your sister, right?
Kind of. I bought it for myself.
Oh, what?
I couldn't. She was so happy.
Okay. Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah, that is hard if you're like, yoink, that's mine.
What was I gonna do on Christmas Day? Be like, hey, that was actually meant for me. But I couldn't do that to my sister. I couldn't.
I'm a only child, so like, yeah.
A part of me wants to say lucky, but I love my siblings. But I'm also,
Yeah, that's definitely probably the right reaction. I would just be like, no, that's mine. I'm like a horrible person, but
no, you're not a horrible person. I feel like a lot of people probably would have just been like, hey, that was meant for me, but I was just like, this is so uncomfortable. Lily, are you having fun? Yeah.
That is a story. That is a really good one.
It was bound to happen eventually. They've had a really good track record of not giving people the wrong gifts for a long time.
The wrong name.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, well, that's interesting. All right, cool. So yeah, everyone, we'll see you in the future. The next thing we're gonna talk about is I Am Legend, the Will Smith, coronavirus turns people into zombies movie. Yeah, so it'll be fun to talk about. So take care, everybody, and may the force be with you.
And live long and prosper.